The U.S. Navy's blockade operation began by transforming the Strait of Hormuz into a massive military checkpoint, where every nautical mile is monitored by a multi-layered integrated combat system. At the heart of this pincer is the supercarrier USS Abraham Lincoln, a mobile fortress carrying Washington's absolute deterrent power. The specialized capability of this ship lies not just in its aircraft count, but in its long-range early warning radar systems combined with a satellite network, allowing the U.S. military to see into every corner of Iran's naval ports. With the Lincoln stationed at the gateway of the strait, it creates a secure buffer zone, completely neutralizing any potential interference from the regular Iranian Air Force or Navy against the blockade. Working in close coordination with the carrier is the USS Tripoli, an amphibious assault ship possessing extremely high tactical flexibility. The standout feature of the USS Tripoli in this campaign is the presence of F-35B stealth fighters, the short takeoff and vertical landing variant. This is a sharp technical calculation by the U.S. The F-35B can sortie from the Tripoli's short flight deck, allowing the U.S. to maintain stealth superiority even if the larger carriers must pull back to avoid Iranian coastal missiles. The combination of the Lincoln and Tripoli forms a tactical tag team where the U.S. can simultaneously maintain massive firepower pressure and utilize stealth penetration to monitor the covert activities of the Iranian IRGC. Surrounding these capital ships is a network of Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, equipped with the advanced Aegis combat system. The U.S. uses these destroyers as steel bodyguards, utilizing phased array radars to create an electronic barrier that completely jams Iranian vessel communications. Here, the U.S. implements a strictly enforced maritime flow classification tactic. Based on real-time intelligence, U.S. warships proactively intercept and demand any vessel with suspected ties to Iran to stop their engines for inspection. This is the first step in an economic strangulation process, where the U.S. Navy asserts that not a single drop of oil nor a single crate of Iranian goods can slip through the technological fence Washington has deployed. With the perimeter firmly established and U.S. destroyers occupying key positions, the scenario shifts to direct maritime enforcement actions to tighten the shackles around Iran's shipping lanes. This phase witnesses the U.S. Navy's aggression through actual maritime interception operations, MIO. When an Iranian cargo ship deliberately attempts to bypass the perimeter, the U.S. does not choose to open fire from a distance. Instead, it executes a dramatic enforcement procedure to showcase physical dominance. A U.S. destroyer will accelerate to close range, often just a few hundred meters, close enough for the Iranian crew to see the MAC 45 127mm main gun pointed directly at their bridge. This cannon is not just a lethal weapon, but a tool of gunboat diplomacy, capable of firing warning shots with extreme precision directly across the bow to force the opponent to halt. Should an Iranian vessel remain defiant, the U.S. deploys VBSS, visit board, search, and seizure units. These are elite special operations teams trained for close quarters combat aboard ships. They insert via MH-60S Seahawk helicopters, multi-role helos equipped with infrared sensors to detect booby traps or weapons hidden on deck. U.S. VBSS teams perform fast rope techniques onto the deck amidst heavy seas, creating a deterrent pressure that no Iranian civilian or paramilitary force can resist. The report's mention of 10 intercepted vessels demonstrates the absolute effectiveness of this protocol. The presence of U.S. Special Ops makes it clear to Iranian captains that any resistance will lead to a total seizure of the ship. On a deeper technical level, the U.S. employs both handheld and ship-mounted electronic jamming systems to paralyze Iranian navigational radars. Disoriented at sea and facing the muzzles of U.S. Special Forces, Iran's will to resist is completely broken. The U.S. has turned the Strait of Hormuz into a one-way sea, where the rules of the game are written by U.S. fleet commanders. The blockade is no longer just words on diplomatic papers. It is the weight of thousands of tons of steel and top-tier coercive technology surrounding every nautical mile of the Iranian coast. However, the Iranian regime does not succumb easily. Faced with U.S. strangulation, Iran begins to unleash its most dangerous asymmetric weapons in an attempt to break the Iron Ring. Tensions erupt in a hypothetical scenario based on realistic concerns regarding the sea mining mentioned in reports. Under the cover of darkness in the Gulf, small IRGC vessels stealthily deploy smart mines and floating naval mines along international shipping corridors. This is a classic asymmetric tactic used by Iran to turn the strait into a deadly minefield, putting pressure on U.S. blockade efforts. In response, the U.S. does not just rely on large ships, but deploys specialized minesweepers. These ships feature non-magnetic wood or composite hulls, allowing them to navigate safely through minefields without triggering magnetic influence mines. Alongside minesweepers, the U.S. utilizes unmanned underwater vehicles, UUVs, equipped with ultra-high-resolution sonar to map the seabed in real time. Upon detecting an Iranian mine, these UUVs can neutralize the target with small explosive charges without human intervention. However, Iran does not stop at mines. They unleash unmanned surface vehicles, USVs, suicide boats, racing toward the U.S. fleet. This is where the Phalanx close-in weapon system, CIWS, proves its value. With a firing rate of 4,500 rounds per minute, the Phalanx creates a wall of lead around U.S. warships, shredding Iranian explosive boats before they can inflict any damage. This confrontation highlights the gap in technical sophistication. While Iran relies on quantity and the stealth of cheap weaponry, the U.S. counters with an automated, multi-layered defense system. U.S. Navy MH-60R helicopters also use Hellfire missiles and laser cannons to destroy IRGC command boats from beyond the range of enemy machine guns. The U.S. proves it is thoroughly prepared for any asymmetric situation, turning Iran's resistance efforts into live-fire tests for new American military technology. Iran's mining actions failed to break the ring and instead provide a pretext for the U.S. to mobilize even more modern assets right up to Tehran's shores. After crushing Iran's attempts at armed harassment, the U.S. Navy enters a phase of long-term consolidation to transform the blockade into a new order in the Gulf. Once immediate threats are repelled, the U.S. Navy executes the pivotal mission mentioned in the report, expanding the strait militarily while maintaining the blockade. The U.S. begins establishing safe corridors exclusively for the tankers of allies and neutral nations. U.S. destroyers act as guides, using ISR, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance equipment to ensure the path ahead is completely clear of mines and signs of Iranian ambush. This action is a severe blow to Tehran's prestige, proving that the U.S. is the entity with the power to decide who is permitted to pass through these waters. The isolation of Iran has now become absolute. The U.S. maintains at-sea refueling tankers to ensure the blockade fleet never has to leave its station to return to port. F-35B stealth jets from the USS Tripoli conduct continuous silent patrols, using electronic sensors to intercept any clandestine communication attempts from Iranian ports. Even a small Iranian skiff attempting to approach a cargo ship is detected the moment its engine starts, thanks to underwater acoustic monitoring systems. The U.S. has effectively turned the Strait of Hormuz into a maritime prison for the entire Iranian Navy. Not a single Iranian vessel has breached the perimeter, and the reality on the battlefield shows that the U.S. has succeeded in suffocating the Tehran regime's economy without needing to launch a total war.